Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Let's Dev, where today we're continuing work on a game about squirting squids and the sharks that want to eat them. Last time we worked on the ink effect for our squid squirt ability, using an interesting new method in order to optimally handle a bunch of individual ink markers. We managed to create quite an organic feeling squirt effect. This, coupled with the addition of actual colors, left us with a nicer, prettier, and more vibrant ink squirting experience. And so now that our game looks a bit prettier, it's time to get back to the important stuff, the gameplay. Today we'll start adding obstacles to our game to make things a bit more challenging. The first of these obstacles will be literal walls, which will restrict the player's positioning options. We'll also work on another mobile unit that'll dare to mess with the player's progress. And that is our plan, so let's get to the coding. First up were the walls, aka rocks, which will be randomly spawned within the grid. In order to make sure rocks wouldn't stack, every cell position in our level's grid would be recorded to a temporary DS list. A random entry is then chosen, a rock is placed in that cell's position in the game world, and the entry is removed from the list. And just like that, we now had ourselves some physical obstacles to make the player's navigation a bit more challenging. Now, I'm definitely aware that the current code allows for some potential blockage issues, but for now it worked, and I was eager to move on to our next obstacle. A new object for some bad fishes was created, and variables for fish type and state related activities were added. Then a couple switches were added for the fish type and states that'll determine each bad fish's behavior, and the first being a pufferfish. To start, I wanted to create a sequence where our bad little puffer would choose a cell and move towards it. After reaching his destination cell, it would wait, and after a certain amount of time, it would swim away, eventually deleting itself from the game. Unfortunately, I was a bit distracted, so the results were a little shaky at first, which was due to setting up the fish's destination coordinates and movement code all in the same event. So the destination variables were made into object variables, then the states were broken down. Destinations were set first, with the following state moving our fish based on the data. This smoothed out our sequence immensely, and again I even toyed with the idea of having the fish ease into its position, but much like with the shark, it just felt unnatural and a little too abrupt. So with our fish moving in sequence as we needed, it was time to puff this little pufferfish up. A distance check was added to the pufferfish during the wait in cell phase of the sequence, and if the player is too close, this would send the pufferfish into a new state. This state would be the quote-unquote start-out state, puffing the fish up and blowing any ink around it away. Basically, if triggered, the pufferfish would reset surrounding cells to 0, and the player will need to re-ink those areas. And after a bunch of tedious testing, the code proved to be working just fine. Start-out pufferfish would now reset nearby grid cells, just like we needed. And with that working, we now had to add a visual effect to communicate this to the player. Back in the sequence code, I had the pufferfish use the same ink squirt effect as the squid. However, the ink used here would be specifically black. And after some tweaking, I was finally able to spawn enough black ink to somewhat reflect the pufferfish's area of effect. And so next we needed to remove that black ink from our ink surface. This was done via blend mode, which I don't have too much experience with, so this took a while. Eventually, I was able to not only remove the black from our ink surface, but the resulting colors were absolutely beautiful. Seriously, these are the same bold colors I've been using since the last episode, but thanks to the way that the blend mode meshed with the blue of the floor tiles, made the color scheme not only fit with the current rest of the colors we already use, but it's so dang pretty. But pretty colors aside, you can also see that those splatter effects created by the pufferfish now quote-unquote delete ink previously set by the player. And this helps to illustrate that those cells need to be recolored. Although I'm definitely going to need to increase the intensity of the effect to make things more obvious. Honestly, it would be cool to handle the splatter like Viscera Cleanup does, but I have no idea how I'd go about doing that. And unfortunately, that's all the time I had for this session. To be honest, there was a lot going on in real life that kept me distracted this session, and also testing the pufferfish were a real pain. Anyway, we've still got at least one more obstacle to add, plus a few other ideas, so we're not exactly done just yet. But that'll have to wait because we've come to the end of today's episode of Let's Dev. So leave a like if you enjoyed the episode, subscribe and turn on notifications if you haven't already, and leave your thoughts on our progress in the comments. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.